Hi, welcome to my channel, Crafty in Theory, where I try and do things in theory. Yeah, that's about right. Lately I've been doing a lot of hand sewing, and while I have hand sewed for a while, there's some things I wish I knew before I started. So I'm hoping if I share them with you, maybe you can have a better result, or maybe a less poor time about it, because that was totally English. Yeah, whatever. Let's do this. One of the first things that you guys need to know when you start hand sewing is that your first stitches, sorry, I don't mean to be laughing, are gonna look terrible. If you don't pay attention to how you're sewing certain things, I hope you guys can see this fairly well. Oh, camera angle not so great, lighting not so great. So what I did is I did a bunch of back stitches as a quick stitch on here, not paying attention to which was the outside. And oh look, all the big messy back stitches are there. Is the stitch okay? Is it functional? Absolutely. It looks terrible. So I just want to put it out there that your first stitches, you might put them on the wrong way and you're not going to be happy about it. That happens. Or they might just look terrible. It just takes time, I promise. Start with something simple, like a little bag or a pattern weight. Oh yeah, don't forget, you can make those. Try not to give yourself too hard of a time about the result of your first projects. Don't expect them to be perfect the first time, like I usually do, and then beat myself up over it. Alright, let's talk about needles. We've all seen these giant packs of needles that we can get from the store. And I don't know if you guys know this, but different needles work for different purposes. You can see this big bad boy here, and he looks great, and you might think he'd be great for sewing through everything. He's not that wonderful. Just bring him up. This needle here will work for things, but you do not want to be brute forcing him through something, through silk. And then the other thing you want to also be aware of is these packs of craft needles. Make sure you double check to see what kind of needle it is on the back, or you'll end up getting the tapestry needle, which sounds super fun, but is blunt on the end, which is not great if you're actually trying to sew a garment. As you can probably see, there's quite a few different sizes here. Let me line them up so bring them a little bit closer. It just flew right off. That's funny. There are different sizes, and you can see they go from a chunky boy to some of the thinner ones. The thinner ones do take a little bit to get used to holding, but I promise that they'll make you a much nicer seam, especially when you get started. Also be aware when you buy big packs of needles like this, the quality of what you're going to get can be a little, I'm going to say suspect. You'll go from anything that actually looks great to ones where the needles aren't even properly cleared in here. Yeah, that's a thing. Don't worry about necessarily buying yourself the fancy expensive needles when you start. But if you've decided that you want to hand sew on a regular basis, buy yourself the nicer needles. There's a few reasons for it. When you start hand sewing, sometimes getting the project done seems to be priority one. One of the best things that I can tell you is that if you start hand sewing, learning how to hold your needle with the right, we'll say form, but just in a way that helps you sew, will make your life a million times easier. So I'm just going to show you how I do it. It doesn't mean that you have to do it this way. You will find something that works for you. I hold my needle here. Sorry, I should do this. I hold my needle like this with my thimble back here. And then I make sure that I hold this guy here. Usually I'll actually, if I'm doing a longer bit, I'll actually pin this to something. It does actually help with getting the tension so you're not using your hand in a weird way. But it just makes stitches a little bit easier. You can actually get nicer running stitches as you do it. And then making sure that you're pushing through with your back finger. So that helps, especially if you've done a few. I'm not using the greatest of thread here. You're going to pull through, and then, you know your lovely teacup finger? Pinky finger? Go ahead and use that to help bring that guy through. It also will help with tension. Does it take a little while to do it that way? Yes, absolutely. You'll see that I didn't actually do that great. Was probably not necessarily in the best of way of doing it with the camera. But I promise you, if you can actually hold your thread here, balance it either on your thimble, and then try and tension it with your pinky. I think the best video I've seen for this actually has been Abby Cox so far. I will attempt to link that one in the description. She actually goes over a lot more about needles and the form and everything like that. Yeah, actually, hers is a pretty good video too, especially if you want to talk more about the how. I've touched on it a little bit, but I just want to tell everybody that thimbles are your friends. There are so many different types out there, and you can sew your own. This one I actually purchased. So what matters is that you get one that fits on that middle finger. There are ones that you can get that just like do a ring, like the medieval style ones, or you can have the ones up top. I don't use all of these thimbles. These are ones that I've bought over time, and I have ones that I like more than others. If I know I'm going to be working with something that's fairly strong, I actually have this one that has like a metal bit, just to help me. My only thing I still need to do is trim it down. You don't really want anything going past that knuckle, or at least I don't like things going past that knuckle. These guys are okay if you're doing a quick one. These tend to be my loner ones because I have 3 sizes. This guy is a hard plastic. I actually use this when I'm dealing with very, very thick layers of things. I'm not the hugest fan of this one, but it has saved my fingers through multiple layers of wool before. My favorite one is this little leather dude, and I'm pretty sure you can actually get him in pleather. What I actually did is I will actually put it on. You'll see that it actually runs past my knuckle, right here. And then how I know where to cut this is I want to be able to curl, and I want to still be able to make a fist. You can make a fist and still have a comfortable fist. That thing fits well. Could I have trimmed up here? Yeah, but it doesn't really matter to me. What matters is that I keep this guy cut here and then my knuckles here so I can keep the fist. If I can do this, I can do any motion I'm going to do while sewing. The best thing that I can recommend for anyone, and it doesn't seem to get taught a lot when you're starting sewing, is depending on what you're using to sew, hand care. Take care of these things. If you're going to hand sew, you need your hands to be happy. Now, there's a few things to be aware of. Some of these cheaper needles, they're nickel-plated. If any of you have allergies to cheap earrings, chances are over time as you sew, you're going to become allergic, and fortunately mine are not super gross right now, but it will result in your fingers cracking. And it feels terrible, it hurts, and you actually have to stop working for a bit. So just keep an eye on that. If you start using cheap needles and your hands start cracking, go to some of the more expensive needles. I have found for me, ones that don't actually bother my allergies, is I found that the Clover brand, the John James brand, and the super expensive Tulip brand, at least they're expensive here up in Canada to get a hold of. They're really great needles. If you're going to do a long bit of stitching, try them. They're worth it. If you're going to continue doing this, do that. The other thing that I have done is if I'm working with a material that my hands hate, I'll just put on gloves. Is it the most fun thing ever? Not necessarily, but you will get used to it. Yeah, these ones are not as white as they used to have been, but I'll tell you, if you're dealing with wool, and it's a garment that, I don't know what it is with me. Some wools I will actually have like an itchy reaction to. A lot of times when I wash them, it goes away. But if you're using wool and you find that your hands give you this sticky or scratchy feeling, take that as a chance that you might be allergic to the wool that you're working on or with the fabric that you're working on. And decide whether or not you want to continue that project, or, you can stop. That's an option. Stopping is an option, and so is gloves. Continuing on hand care, please don't forget to get yourself a good quality of something that works for you. I tend to use coconut oil for when the cracks are really, really bad and needs some super repair. And then daily I use coconut body butter on my fingertips and I just let it sit. Make sure you pick a brand that works for you, but please don't put them on your hands and continue sewing. You're going to get oil spots on your fabric, and then you're going to curse your name nightly as you try and figure out how to get out that oil spot. And if you can, oh my goodness, I just thought of doing that and then playing with silk. Don't do that, okay? Don't do that. And the other thing I would like to suggest for people is, I know it sounds a little funny, is file your nails. You might not be someone who likes going for manicures. I don't, because if I ever get nail polish on there, it chips within 2 seconds of me getting it. I can get a pedicure and get nail polish on my toenails, and it will be bomb-proof. But if I get anything on my actual fingernails, it will be chipped within the first 5 minutes. I've never not had that. So one of the best things that you can do just for yourself is go get yourself just a nice little nail file and keep them filed down. You'll find as you go along in your stitching, it's really kind of easy when you're flipping things around to catch those little bits on your fabric. If you're using wool, if you're using linen, it happens. It catches and it's kind of gross. So just keep them filed down, and then you won't have to worry about going for a manicure or anything. Get the thread caught under your nail, and it's funny at first, and then you realize you might have cut your thread, or even better, wrecked your fabric. So file them babies down. The last thing I want to talk to you is possibly the most important. If you've ever typed for a long period of time, if you've ever played a console game or a PC game for a really long period of time, you know what it's like for your hands to actually start feeling sore. And as you start hand sewing, if you start doing this for multiple hours on end, your hands are going to be so sore and so angry at you. So just do yourself a favor, massage it out, even if it's just squeezing on your fingers just a little bit to give them a little bit of a break. Find something that works for you. I'm not a massage therapist. I'm not recommending anything, but just make sure you give yourself a chance for your hands to relax and fully extend. Fully extend. If you can, stretch it up a little bit. Don't do it past the point of pain. That's not the point of this. Just make sure you stretch your hands out from time to time and treat them well. These are your go-to. These are the things that you're sewing with. Take care of them. If you don't, you'll start developing really bad habits. Your fingers will actually want to stay in kind of a claw formation. I've done this with other things, and it really hurts. So don't do that. Take care of your hands. They're making stuff with you. Take care of them. Wow, did I just make my hands like a... Apparently they're friends that are here to party with us now, so yay. But take care of your hands. What are your hand sewing questions? Do you want me to do a video on types of stitches that you see? The ones that you're most likely going to use? Or do you want me to go over, how I've done certain projects via hand stitching? Let me know in the comments. Maybe are there any tips that I have missed that you would include in your tips and tricks? Because we're here to learn from each other, so please share those. I really would appreciate the comments. Now that I made a giant mess on my table, I'm going to go put it away and actually get to sewing instead of using this video as an excuse to not do the thing. Go me.